Welcome to the 2017 John Mulholland Ulster Rally, the event that brings together both the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship and the British Rally Championship, and the new generation R5 cars dominating proceedings in this year's two-day event. It's the penultimate round of both the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship and the British Rally Championship.
We've made it to the beautiful city of Derry for the penultimate round in the Clonakilty Black Pudding Irish Tarmac Championship, the John Mulholland Ulster Rally. And at this stage of the game, it seems like it's a two-horse race between the Fermanagh man Alistair Fisher and the Monaghan man Sam Moffat for that championship title.
It's down to two now in the battle to win the Irish Tarmac Championship. The leader, Sam Moffat, in his Fiesta. And second place, Alistair Fisher in his Fiesta. And this is how the drivers' standings look. No Josh Moffat, who's concentrating on an upcoming European round, or Rob Barrable for this penultimate Irish Tarmac event.
Penultimate round of the championship, and of course points are most important this weekend.
Yeah, it's probably the most important round of the whole year now so far. It's getting to the business end, and we have a big push to put on this week, and yeah, it's going to be between myself and Alistair.
Alistair, it's practically D-Day.
Yeah, it's Ulster Rally again, so good battle all year of Sam, and I'd say it'll be the same again this weekend. The conditions are very changeable here, so it'll be really a tyre choice this afternoon. It'll probably make a big difference. But the stages, they're tricky, they're greasy, but they can also dry out as well, so it's going to be a tough call.
The British Rally Championship has also come to Ireland, and one of the favourites for victory is the reigning Irish Tarmac Championship holder, Keith Cronin, in his M Sport Ford Fiesta.
I think it's going to be very similar to last year here. Last year I got very, very tricky here, a lot of mud being pulled out, a lot of water. I think it's going to be similar this year. Third choice is going to be tough because what might work on one stage might not work in another, so just choose the best we can and try not to make any mistakes.
First away from the ceremonial start at the Guildhall was the British Rally Championship leader, Frederick Ahlin, in his Skoda Fabia, who will be unfamiliar with the Irish tarmac conditions. Alistair Fisher took maximum points on Galway and Donegal in the Irish Series, but an off in the Rally of the Lakes means he's playing catch-up this weekend on the Ulster. Sam Moffat has already won the Irish National One-Day Series, and he's bidding to become the third Irish driver to win both the Irish Tarmac and national titles in one season. And an interesting entry at number 31 is the overall rally sponsor, John Mulholland, in his Skoda Fabia, a driver with plenty of rally experience, especially here in Ulster.
I've been rallying for over 33 years, and it was a bit about putting something back into the sport. We have a business here in Derry, John Mulholland Motors, Skoda and Hyundai, and I thought this was a good link for our business, and the fact that the rally was coming to Derry, it was a good fit for us.
And so as the cars and crews head out for the stages on a damp day in Derry, it's our chance to see what the competitors face on day one of this two-day event. Day one is pretty straightforward in terms of 6 stages. It's basically 3 stages run twice on the opening day. The stages are short enough. Stage 1 is 11.5 mile run over Holly Hill, with the finish close to Strabane. Holly Hill is also stage 4. Stages 2 and 5 see the cars move south to the Mary Gray test, which covers 8.35 miles. Stages 3 and 6 on the opening day is the Butterloop test, a short 4.7 mile run held in wet, slippery conditions with the threat of a lot of mud being thrown onto the stage by the competitors. Heavy rain threatened to make the going treacherous for the drivers as they tackle the first of the weekend's 14 special stages. Keith Cronin took an early lead, getting through the opening test at Holly Hill with a 7.8 second advantage. The three-time British champion lost time on stage 2, but he won stage 3, and by the first service he led overall by just 2.2 seconds. Cronin bidding for his first win in Ulster in the Fiesta. Frederick Atlin slotted into second place after the first 3 stages, 2.2 seconds behind Cronin, and would have been conscious of keeping the Corkman in his sights in his bid to win the British Series.
I'm not so experienced on these kind of stages compared to Keith, for example, so we just got to be smart and stay calm.
Another British contender was the Welshman Ossian Price in his Ford Fiesta. He and co-driver Dale Furness won stage 2 of the opening 3 stages, but had problems on the third run, and ahead of service on the opening day, his Fiesta R5 was 19.6 seconds back from Cronin. Price had an overshoot on 1, and then a spin on stages 2 and 3, which dropped him away a little from the top 2. Fourth overall, and the leading Irish Tarmac rally driver was Monaghan Sam Moffat. Mr. Consistent in his Ford Fiesta R5. Maximum championship points in Killarney and second to Alistair Fisher in Galway and Donegal had Moffat in the series lead ahead of the Ulster round.
60 to 6 left, and right 8 he cut 5 right B under the trees and 4 right plus at the piers. 60 to left entry chicane, Tree Vale. 60. 5 right, crest dip, 60 to flat, 6 left over crest.
No problems for Moffat through the first 3 stages, and back in service he was just over 30 seconds behind Cronin, but more importantly the leading Irish Tarmac driver as he pushed to win the title for the first time. Disaster, however, for Alistair Fisher, and indeed for the Irish Tarmac Series itself, as Moffat's nearest championship rival was an early departure from the event when his Ford Fiesta suffered overheating issues on only the second stage, which all but handed the Irish Championship to Moffat at that point. Johnny Greer's been threatening to put in a top performance all year in the Citroën DS3. He was 5th by the end of stage 3 and now 2nd in the Irish Tarmac Series behind Moffat after Fisher's retirement.
So unpredictable out there, Johnny.
Yeah, it's been mad. Like, I mean, the rain we've had on the way out to the first stage and then to arrive there and find it bone dry was a bit of a shock. So it's just drying up so fast that I think no matter what you go on, you're going to get caught in the wrong tyre somewhere in the event. So it's just a lottery, like.
Marty McCormick from Mahara has been concentrating on the British Series this year in his Skoda Fabia, and after 3 stages he was 6th, but 1 minute and 6 seconds behind Cronin. David Moynihan is his navigator.
Flat right over crest jump, repeat flat right over crest jump 40, long crest goes 2 right minus okay, and 3 left plus in for flat right over crest.
Unfortunately, the one went out of our seals and we got a punch in the second stage. Own fault, clipped the corner, or clipped the stone, sorry, on a corner, so no fault of the tyre. We drove to the end, thankfully the carcass held up and kept going, so it is what it is. Dropped a bit of time, we'll keep going.
Desi Henry was caught on the wrong tyres on the torrential rain on stage 1, and on the second stage he punctured the right front tyre of his Skoda. He had a decent third stage where he was 3rd fastest, and overall, after 3, was 7th on the standings and less than 2 seconds behind Greer.
6 right, slippy up there now, 30, left over crest, 9, 30, 3 plus at the pole, slippy, 3 plus at the pole, slippy, into 4 left, 100, 4 right plus, into 6 left, 4 right plus, into 6 left.
Stephen Wright reckoned he was a bit rusty after a long layoff, but it was 8th on the standings after 3 stages. Donegal's Joe McGonigal was 4th on the driver's standings ahead of the Ulster round in his Skoda Fabia as he got more to grips with the conditions through stages 2 and 3, and he moved up the order to be 9th after 3 runs, 3.8 seconds behind Wright. Rhys Yates and Alex Lee were 10th after the opening stage in their Fiesta, but their rally ended on stage 2, Mary Hill. And that elevated Alex Laffey and Patrick Walsh into the top 10 by service on day 1. Problems though for John Mulholland in the Fabia after his initial decent run on the opening 2 stages, which put him into the top 15 in R5. Mulholland made a bad mistake after a hairpin, put the car into a ditch. It took some effort and help from spectators to get Mulholland back into the event, but he's extricated eventually and was back in the rally, although he lost a lot of time.
There's a rumour that you went on somewhat of an excursion.
Well, I just wanted to test the durability of Skodas. You know, I sell these cars and they're pretty robust, so I decided to do a wee bit of off-roading. So Jeff and I had a wee bit of a safari and came back out, and we're still here, thank God.
And so to the leader at service, and it's Ballylicky's Keith Cronin that has the overall lead and the lead in the British Rally Championship section.
Try not to take any big risks, but it's hard to know where the balance is. You can back off too much very easily, you can go over the top very easily, so it's trying to find a balance. But we got on okay in that loop, so hopefully we can do the same now again in the next loop.
For Sam Moffat, lying in fourth, the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship crown was now in his sights. But he was also disappointed with the news that his main rival, Alistair Fisher, was out.
Oh, I've never drove as slow for the rest of the stage when I seen him off. You know, it's gotten all the hard work from both teams and everything, and for him to be gone, and it's very hard to keep concentrated and to keep the race to the British guys here. But for us now, we just need to finish.
And on to the remaining three stages on day one of the 2017 Ulster Rally. A repeat of the first three stages run again in damp, wet conditions. And through comes the rally leader Keith Cronin in the M Sport Fiesta, who had a problem on stage 4 when he lost valuable seconds as his Fiesta overshot a junction and then stalled. Cronin admitted conditions were tough on the second loop as he was on dry weather tyres on flooded roads. However, he kept his lead overnight, albeit by just 0.9 of a second. Up to second now, the Fiesta of Oisin Price, the Welsh driver, won stage 4 to add to his earlier stage 3 win. He also won stages 5 and 6 to make it 4 in a row, as he closed to less than a second behind the rally leader, Keith Cronin. Down to third now was Frederick Ahlin in the Skoda. Cronin was happy to have Price between him and the British Rally Championship leader in his bid to win the title for a fourth time. At the end of day one, Ahlin was 18.1 seconds in arrears, with Johnny Greer now leading the Irish Tarmac runners in his Citroën DS3 as Sam Moffat backed off. With Fisher out, no need for any histrionics. At the end of day one and 6 stages down, then it's Keith Cronin who leads. Second, Oisin Price by 0.9 of a second, with Ahlin in third place. Johnny Greer is at the fourth now, with Moffat in fifth. Join us for part 2 and the 8 remaining stages in the international category of this year's Ulster Rally after the break. Welcome back, and it's day 2 of the John Mulholland Ulster Rally, the penultimate round of both the Irish Tarmac and British Rally Championship Series. And there are 8 stages to be run on the second day of competition on this year's event. The overnight leader is the Cork driver Keith Cronin and his co-driver Mikey Galvin from Killarney. Cronin, the 3-time British champion and the current Irish Tarmac champion, held a slim 0.9 second of a lead going into the second day. Second, having won 4 stages in a row in the Fiesta, were the Welsh pairing of Oisin Price and Dale Furness. Price has gotten to grips with the Irish conditions. Third, and 18.1 seconds off Cronin, the Fabia of Frederick Ahlin and Torsten Eriksson, hoping to get at least past Price on day 2 to further his attempts to win the British Series. Johnny Greer was 4th overnight in the DS3. He led the Irish Series. There'll be no Irish Tarmac Championship battle between Alistair Fisher and Sam Moffat. Fisher went out on the opening day, and Moffat started day 2 5th and 2nd in the Irish Tarmac standings.
Day 2 of the John Mulholland Ulster Rally, and rally leader Keith Cronin will contest the first of 8 stages today with just 0.9 of a second in the lead ahead of Oisin Price. However, in the Irish Tarmac Championship, Johnny Greer has pipped Sam Moffat to the post, but anything can happen there. Weather conditions are going to be unpredictable, and again, tyre choice will be a lottery.
Indeed, it will, Breed, if day 1 was anything to go by. This then the outline for the 8 stages on day 2. Stage 7 was the 8.57 mile run of Slieve Kirk before back to service. It was also stage 11 later in the day. Stages 8 and 12 were the 8.9 mile run at Drumahoe. Barnes Gap would provide the settings for stages 9 and 13. That was an 8.95 mile test, while the longest stage was 10, and Ruski, which would provide us with the 14th and final stage, was just short of 16 miles in length. And so to the action across the next 4 stages, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And a terrific start to day 2 by Keith Cronin in the damp inclement conditions as he increased his lead over Ossian Price to 33.5 seconds. Cronin set the tone on the opening stage, Steve Kirk, and was 12 seconds up on the next quickest man, that was Frederick Allen, and he began to pull away. With 4 to go, it was looking good for Cronin to claim his first win in Ulster. Price had an immediate problem on stage 7 as he couldn't get his Fiesta slowed down enough for a corner and the rear of the car smacked a wall on a post. Thankfully, damage was mostly cosmetic, but the car's exhaust was flattened, which was remedied at first service as Bree caught up with Price, surveying the damaged car.
Oisin, you've obviously had a slight excursion.
Yeah, I just couldn't get stopped for a slow 2 left and backed it into the wall. Lucky to get away with it, really, but yeah, I suppose we got off better than the wall did, but still there's a lot of damage on the car.
Frederick Allen didn't seem to be enjoying his Ulster rally and he remained in 3rd overall after 10 stages. And he then lost time on the first run over Ruski to drop away from the Welshman.
Well, Frederick, you had an off excursion since we spoke to you last.
Yeah, we were off a little bit on stage 10 there, so just getting back to the finish now. This was horrible, this stage. I mean, the worst 3 kilometers I might carry on tarmac, so yeah, it is what it is.
Johnny Greer had a steady run over the opening 4 stages as he bid for his first ever Irish Tarmac Series win in the Citroën DS3. He was 4th overall, but a distant 1 minute and 20 seconds behind Atlin. 5th, the Fiesta of Marty McCormack, 29 seconds off Greer after 10 stages.
40, flat 2 left, it's okay. 60, keep for flat 2 right late, on you go. Flat 2 right late, and the keep for 1 left, opens over crest. Brake only 30 down to 4 left in, nips over crest, and 4 right plus in long, into left in the slot, 6 left narrow over loose, 6 left narrow over loose now. Jab here, Marty. Come on, 180.
Sam Moffat was cruising around now in the Fiesta and was 6th on the standings and 2nd to Greer on the Irish Tarmac list. With Fisher out, a good haul of championship points would suffice for Moffat.
Flat crest and flat 6 left. Care 130 slowing. Crest dipping 4 right. 40 to 3 left plus. Mucky exit.
Desi Henry was a bit disappointed when he reached service after stage 10. He admitted he'd been caught out by mud and dampness on the roads, which meant that he was on the wrong tyres, and it led to this moment. Henry struggled to find reverse, but eventually he got it going again. Joe McGonigal was a steady 8th in his Fabia, perhaps a little disappointed not to be mixing it further up the field. This was not easy on the greasy roads as this slide and overshoot showed. Thankfully, a side road provided the great escape and he was soon on his way again.
It was just lethally slippy towards the end last stage. A whole lot of muck. I'd say there was less muck in the field, so if we can get this next one out of the way, we'll be happy.
Matt Edwards and Darren Jarrett had all sorts of problems over the weekend. A misfire on day 1 and a puncture on day 2 as the tyre disappeared off the rim of his Fiesta. Edwards through in 9th after 10 stages. Stephen Wright rounded out the top 10 after 10 in his Kitty Haviland Fiesta R5. It was a case now of getting the car to the finish for the Monaghan driver and get some more rally stage miles under his belt. After his excursion into the ditch on day 1, it was a much better start to day 2 and the opening 4 stages for the Skoda Fabia of John Mulholland and his co-driver, the Leishman, Jeff Case.
1 right go, 130, 1 right go, 130, 2 right okay over crest, 80, down to a 3 right over bump dip, 60 over bumps to a 1 right long. It's grand.
So no off-roading today, John, no?
No, but I could do with a set of gravel tyres if you know anybody has a set. The conditions, it hasn't rained as much, but the amount of muck that's pulled out in the stages is phenomenal.
Of course, it's only going to be worse the second time round.
It is, another 70 cars through. That's going to make it really treacherous. So, you know, this is becoming a finisher's rally for sure. Get her over the finish line and try and not bring any damage to the car.
And so to service at Ebrington Square after special stage 10 and time for the competitors to take stock and catch up with all the latest news ahead of the final 4 stages on this year's event.
Keith, it's time to relax. You're settling into a nice, comfortable lead.
Yeah, we had a good run through them three. Well, bar one puncher on the first one, but other than that, we had a good run and we built up a bit of a lead. But it's still a long way to go, and hopefully we can manage it now. We don't have to take any real risks.
A pretty relaxed looking Sam Moffat was away to the final stages in his Fiesta. 4 stages to go now, no pressure from the absent Fisher. Getting to the finish, the priority now for the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship leader. And out on the stages, the difficult conditions began to take their toll on some, and the biggest casualty, second place man Oisin Price, whose fuel pump let go in stage 11, and his Ulster Rally, and indeed his British Rally Championship chances were over. Another who didn't make it to the finish was Matt Edwards, whose engine in the Fiesta gave way on stage 12. A frustrating weekend all around for the English driver. So now look at the top 10 after 14 stages in reverse order, and 10th is Camillus Bradley in the Ford Escort, who also won the national section. We'll have more action from the national rally, plus all the other classes in our next programme. 9th in their Ford Fiesta R5, Alex Laffey and Patrick Walsh. It was a struggle for the pair all weekend, but they would have been pleased with a top 10 placing. 8th, Stephen Wright and Arthur Kierans. Not the most spectacular of runs through the 2 days for the former Motorsport Ireland Young Rally Driver of the Year recipient, who just seems a little low in confidence these days. 7th, Joe McGonigal in the Skoda Fabia. That was good enough as well for a 3rd place finish on the Irish standings. 6th, Sam Moffat and Carl Atkinson in the Fiesta, and 2nd overall in the Irish standings, with Alistair Fisher not finishing. All Moffat has to do now is start the final round in Cork to claim bonus points and the Irish Tarmac title. 5th, Desi Henry and Liam Moynihan in the Skoda Fabia. They were 37.5 seconds ahead of Moffat. The pair also classed in 4th on the British standings at this year's Ulster event.
Listen down here now, 6 right 40, 6 left 80, 5 right in over crest at the gate, 60 okay, slowing crest only 20, narrow 40 minus over the bump. Narrow 40 minus over the bump. This is going again, 6 left 60, flat 5 right opens, half long 40 in, crest only 30, 4 left plus narrows, 4 left plus narrows.
4th, and another good run for Marty McCormick in the Fabia, finishing 29.7 seconds ahead of Henry. He put him on the British podium in 3rd place, their third place finish on the British Rally Championship this year. 3rd, Johnny Greer and Christy Riddock in the Citroen, his first ever maximum points on the Irish Series. With Moffat not pushing to win, they drove a smooth and accomplished event to finish the event on the final overall podium place. 2nd, Frederick Ahlin and Torsten Eriksson. They were elevated to the runners-up spot by the demise of Oisin Price on stage 12. And the winner, Keith Cronin and co-driver Mikey Galvin, who took their Fiesta R5 to a resounding victory by 55.4 seconds from Ahlin. The Corkman had some difficult rallies this year, which has left him struggling in the British Rally Championship, but he certainly got it right this weekend through some very difficult conditions to take a 2nd win of the season after his Ypres Rally win in Belgium.
Yeah, the conditions were really tricky out there. The roads were really tricky. There was mud, gravel, a bit of everything out there, which look, that's rallying, and that's why we do it. I enjoyed them kind of difficult conditions, and it worked out well for us this weekend.
Johnny Greer, the top Irish Championship finisher.
Very enjoyable event, a great rally. Conditions were so treacherous, but I think the guys got all our tyre choices brilliantly. The weather crew done a fantastic job with us and stuff, so really happy, just glad to get over the line.
And with 1 round to go in the Irish Championship, the leader is Sam Moffat.
Of course, you commented all weekend about how difficult this event really was.
Yeah, very, very tough, and so glad to get to the finish of it. Just great to get here. We thought from Ali was gone, it was just tame ourselves, look after the car, everything else, and thankfully it worked out for us.
So this is the top 5 on the Ulster Rally this year. Keith Cronin wins it, Ahlin in 2nd, Johnny Greer in 3rd place ahead of Marty McCormick, Desi Henry in 5th. In the Irish Tarmac Championship standings, Sam Moffat just needs to turn up at the Cork 20 Rally, the final round of the series, and collect the bonus points, and he will be champion. Fisher remains 2nd, McGonigal up to 3rd ahead of Moffat and Stephen Wright.
The sun is beginning to set here as the John Mulholland Ulster Rally comes to a close. An impressive win from the Cork man Keith Cronin, but Johnny Greer takes maximum points in the championship, which means that the Monaghan man Sam Moffat must travel to Cork and start there in order to secure this year's victory. We'll be there. See you then.